Tony Stark wanted to build a suit of armor around the world. While his first attempt didn't go so well, a story from the comics might indicate that he's done the next best thing. The MCU is filling up with heroes fast, even as we lose some, and there's more on the way. They're all bound to collide eventually, and that might mean that the Illuminati might be the traffic cop the MCU needs. Ever since Tony Stark would let the world know that he was Iron Man, the superhero business started booming. It was already a world that had a super soldier in it, and one from space that took a few personal days on Earth. But now Norse gods fight with and alongside super spies, an android, and a green rage monster. Or I guess semi-rage monster now. Someone has to coordinate the defenses of the world. In the comics, that someone is the not at all ominous sounding Illuminati. That team is made up of heroes that represent the different factions in the Marvel Universe. Iron Man represents the Avengers, Doctor Strange the world of magic, Black Bolt is the king of the Inhumans, and Charles Xavier as the leader of the X-Men. Reed Richards and Namor, king of Atlantis, round the group out. Unlike their respective teams, they don't fight threats, they try to manage them. Keyword try. After Secret Wars, they found out that the Beyonder was really a mutant who underwent Terrigenesis and came out inhuman and a cosmic being. They thought they convinced him to leave the universe, but instead completely failed to realize he was making a second battle world. They also thought they convinced the Skrulls not to attack Earth, but instead gave them the tools for a secret invasion. They did convince Marvel Boy to be a good guy though. It wasn't all misses. Some of the activities of the Illuminati might end up sounding familiar to the MCU. The Illuminati's visit to the Skrull came after the Kree-Skrull War spilled over on Earth, something that happened during Captain Marvel. As we learned at the end of Spider-Man Far From Home, Fury is still involved with the Skrull, and the Skrull are involved in S.H.I.E.L.D. Though the MCU Skrulls are the good guys. At least the ones we know are anyway. After Thanos collected the Infinity Stones for a second time, Reed Richards decided he had enough of Space Titans gathering the ability to rewrite the universe, and gathered the Illuminati to gather the stones themselves. It resulted in Uatu the Watcher giving Reed Richards the "I'm not mad, I'm disappointed" phase. After Richards wasn't able to convince the stones to destroy themselves, each member was given the task of hiding one of the stones from the rest of them. In the MCU, the Infinity Stones were destroyed and/or sifted through time and the multiverses, and wherever Loki went with the Space Stone, and the Skrull are on the run from the Kree-Skrull War. The events are there, it just needs the team. 3 of the Illuminati are already in the MCU. Sort of. With Namor, Reed Richards, and Professor X all almost certainly on their way. Xavier and Richards have been locked away at 20th Century Fox, but since Disney adopted the if you can't beat 'em, buy 'em approach, they're now under the MCU umbrella. Hooray! Feige has made no secret that one of his favorite Marvel characters is Namor, and he's been teased a few times depending on what you think the earthquake on the Atlantic seafloor during Endgame was all about. With the MCU in a bit of a disarray after the events of Endgame, and the coming of new heroes and the new threats they bring with them, like the Eternals and Shang-Chi, the expanding universe might just require that Earth have a superband team of team leaders to try and settle matters. Like with most things that have made the transition from the pages of the comics to the big screen though, some things are a little different. The biggest obstacle is with the team that's already in the MCU. Doctor Strange is still going strong after bringing in the cavalry during the battle with Thanos. Tony Stark, on the other hand, didn't fare as well by the end of that battle. That doesn't mean that the old shellhead is out of the band though. We don't know much about how Tony's life was like after he left the Avengers after being disappointed that they weren't the pre-Avengers. We know that he retired to raise his daughter Morgan with Pepper. We also know that failure isn't a deterrent for Stark. When his first attempt to build a super android to protect the world went about trying to destroy it, he went ahead and built a new one, figuring the problem was not enough Jarvis. After the thing that Tony was concerned about happened, and the big threat from space came and destroyed half the world, it stands to reason that Stark didn't just stand idly by. During those 5 years, he still might have been devising a way to preemptively deal with any more threats waiting for him from the great beyond. The problem is that during that time, Doctor Strange was blipped away, with just the cryptic idea that Stark was the key. That leaves the other member that is in the MCU, but is he? Black Bolt is the king of the Inhumans, who were first introduced in the ABC show Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. The Inhuman royal family was originally slated for their own feature film, but it was later changed to a limited series that had, well, limited results. The Inhuman series was a rare misfire with fans and critics not taking to the tale of the Inhumans and how they moved the Earth from the moon, since there have been no mention of the Inhuman royal family. Given that, it doesn't seem likely we'll see Anson Mount retake the role of Black Bolt, but that doesn't necessarily mean that Black Bolt is out of the band. Illuminati member Doctor Strange might be the key to not only rebooting the King of the Inhumans, but bringing in the rest of the team. Reed Richards doesn't need a complicated explanation as the MCU is full of geniuses, so one more isn't a stretch. Get it? Stretch? Cause he's stretchy? Haha, yeah, you get it. The mutants are a little trickier since their place in society and history of Marvel is an integral part of their story. We know that Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness will involve both Doctor Strange and Scarlet Witch. Scarlet Witch in the comics has been known to do more than a little reality rewriting of her own. Her adventures could not only be the way that the mutants end up in the MCU, but also the selective vessel for rebooting or incorporating the various Marvel Entertainment properties. Just like Doctor Strange predicted, Tony Stark was the key to defeating Thanos. Unfortunately, that came at a pretty big cost. While Tony would have had the 5 years of the blip to set up the Illuminati, he would have been the only one around. So far there's no Reed Richards, Namor, or Professor X, and there might as well be no Black Bolt. Doctor Strange had only been back for a few minutes before Tony made his sacrifice, not enough time to talk Strange about forming a new club. But Stark is nothing if not a planner. Even if he also seems to jump headlong into things, he had a plan for his protege Peter Parker and the Edith classes. He might have also left behind a plan for the Wizard should he return for the plan to prevent Thanos-level events. But that still leaves a spot open on the team. While the MCU does have another king on hand, T'Challa, the Black Panther, can take on much of the role that Tony Stark played in the Illuminati. Tony Stark might be genius, industrialist rich, but T'Challa is sovereign country with a monopoly on a valuable metal rich. While T'Challa might not be a Tony Stark-level tech genius, his sister is. While T'Challa would bring a more measured approach to being the power behind the scenes, there's still more than enough hot-headed action in Namor to keep things going. During the new Avengers Illuminati series, he told Reed Richards that he tried to get Sue to leave him, and that he still thinks about invading the surface. Namor is that friend you end up keeping as a friend because you're afraid of what might happen if he wasn't. So what could the Illuminati mean for the MCU? Captain America took the out-of-time Infinity Stones back to the timelines they belong in, before skipping off the ride and getting his last dance. But the Avengers' trip through time didn't go without a hitch. A new timeline Loki bouncing around with a Tesseract is the biggest change, and even without that, if the Avengers could go back and make an Infinity Gauntlet by pulling them out of time, so could someone else. Maybe a villain who makes time travel his whole thing, like Kang the Conqueror? That is likely not something that would escape Doctor Strange's notice. Part of their task might be finding a way to lock the stones in their timelines, so that no one else gets any "I'm gonna rewrite the universe" ideas. Another big event that the Illuminati had their fingers in was the Kree-Skrull War. In the MCU, that is far from a settled matter. The MCU's Kree-Skrull War was so far a little different. In the comics, it's essentially a war between two jerks that happen to have the Earth as their middle ground. In the MCU, the Skrulls are trying to get out of the Kree War and find some place to not be at war. At least the Skrulls we met. Nick Fury is already working with the Skrull in a shipyard, while Talos takes his place on Earth. Nick Fury also seems like someone who would support the idea of the Illuminati. The door is still open for secret invasion, including the good intentions of the Illuminati contributing to the severity of that invasion. The lead-up of the invasion was not confirmed to just that storyline. It was the Illuminati that realized the streak of bad luck the Earth has had might have been the result of secret invasion building up. Another big story that might end up being the monster at the end of the book for the next big saga for the MCU comes in the form of that cosmic turducken, the Beyonder. Whether he turns out to be a mutant who became an Inhuman, who became a nearly omnipotent being, or if he's the creation of the universe itself, his big power move is ideal for the kind of shared universe that Marvel has put together in Secret Wars. The Beyonder wants to understand the nature of good and evil in the way a young child wants to understand the insects in their backyard. Secret War was the Beyonder's way of solving the good guy-bad guy problem. After his attempt, he upped his game with the construction of the second battle world, which went sideways when Dr. Doom figured out the source code. The Illuminati could be the group that discovers the Beyonder, or even inadvertently gives him the idea to stage a Royal Rumble. They might also be the key to bringing in different heroes together in a Secret War situation. Doom brings up another possibility. Just as you can't have a Justice League without the bad guys deciding to form an Injustice Society, you can't form a secret organization without a cabal, basically the bad guy version of the Illuminati, who could fill that antagonist role in Secret Wars. With the Illuminati, Tony Stark's legacy could live on not just in the MCU, but in the suit of armor around the world, even though it might still have some mixed results. That's how the Illuminati might already be shaping the MCU. What would you like to see on that team? Cersei from the Eternals? Professor Hulk? Let us know in the comments, and while you're there, why not subscribe to CBR for the latest content? No secret organization needed. Thanks for watching.